Hi! So welcome to this impromptu stream of Power Wash Simulator. Oh yeah. Nice and relaxing. Yep. Just making stuff clean. Making stuff clean. Everything's fine. Actually, what's funny is part of the reason this is installed, one of three reasons this is installed, is I was using it to try and relax, but the problem is this is such a Zen game that my mind was racing, so I kept driving myself into a panic attack while I was playing it. So I stopped. Hang on, so that's good. Pop out of here. Here, let me show you part of like how ridiculous this is, though. Okay, check this out. No, wrong one. I need this one. So, yeah, no, it's too much thinking time. That's exactly it. It's too much thinking time because it really is just a Zen chill game, which is great. It also has a co-op mode that sucks. Negative to gameplay. So, okay. We've got a power washer, right? Which, as we've already discussed, is a power washer. Now, for something like, say, this mud-encrusted pool, a power washer is actually perfect, you know, because this thing needs it. Even for a fence, kind of, although, honestly, I wouldn't use a power washer on a fence, but, you know, whatever. All this is going to do is strip away a layer of wood and get some splinters on the ground, but, you know, you could still do it. And then we've got, like, this little birdhouse, which would probably be destroyed in seconds. And this, of course, will never be used to cook again, naturally. But then we've got like this little kid's vehicle thing, and yeah, this is fine. This is fine. This is how you clean things for children. Wait, no, this is my actual favorite example. This is a cloth sofa cushion from a swinging outdoor sofa. So yeah, this is how you clean like padded cloth, right? Like this is definitely. I'm telling you, it's a magic power wash, because all this is going to do is create an infinite amount of mildew and mold. Yeah, this is now death. We have successfully destroyed this couch. We're probably tearing the cloth as we're going here. And that's why I call this the magic power washer, because it's not really a power washer. You're just like beaming cleanliness onto things, and that's what's actually happening in lore here. Yeah, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It's fine. It's fine. Everything's fine. Look, it looks nice. That's what they wanted. Right? See? It looks fine. It looks fine. There's no issues. 10 out of 10. Thank you, Kira White Noise. I will put that towards Monster Hunter World for Aspera and Neo. Give me 1 second, please. But the thing is, and I mean this with sincerity, that was a good choice. This is a perfect example of why I tend to be pro gameplay and over pro lore in many cases. Because realistic gameplay usually just means irritation. So I want you to imagine, guys, a nice little ding whenever you finish cleaning something. I want you to imagine how absolutely frustrating cleaning some of this stuff would be if you can't use the power washer, or if you had to deal with the cord, which would get tangled, or if you'd run out of water, any of the other realistic things that would be happening. It would suck. It would take this zen relaxing game and turn it into, well, a sim, really. And I know, sims are fine, and there are people who are into sims. I don't want to sound dismissive towards that, but I mean, that would completely destroy the appeal of this game for me, and several other people I know, actually. Instead of being able to have, you know, just the magic cleanliness gun. I mentioned I would give it negative. I also love this. I could just leave it going forever. I can just hands off the controller. Hang on, let's clean Fido's thing. Hang on, let's destroy the windows. And that window is now destroyed. Wait, hang on, let's go take care of this cloth or possibly plastic umbrella. Let's splinter this thing. So they really did do a lot of good gameplay choices. One of my favorite things is everything looks fake when it's clean, but I'm explaining that wrong. So rather than have like really realistic textures which look lived in, you know, like that Star Wars-y kind of look like most games go for, it looks like something more like Half-Life. Like something that's just this pristine texture. And I'm giving you an example of it right here. Look at this. Look at how pristine that looks. But that's the point. That's the point, is your goal now, your overall objective, is to turn it from looking like Gluck into looking like that. Yeah, it's the perfect 50s suburb. Exactly. That's exactly right. And so that's your goal, is making it look super, like, fakely pristine. And the contrast actually serves to make it more enjoyable. Because instead of just cleaning it off and it looks okay, you clean it off and it's like, oh yeah, look at that shine, right? Look at that shine. Like, trust me, doing roofs on houses suck. But it's like, oh, that's so much better. And again, I gave you an example right here. Here's the undone fence versus the actually cleaned fence. It's actually not 100% clean. I need to get the back. But you get the point. You get the point. It is surprisingly well designed from this perspective. Yeah, no footprints, so no worries about that. And, like, you don't run out of water unless you have the mode on, as Maudie points out. I actually forgot to point that out. There's also a couple other really good quality of life features. Look at the upper left, so you can see how much of the total level you've cleaned. But also, whatever you're mousing over, it will tell you the exact object you're currently mousing over and how much health it has left, aka how much it still needs to be cleaned. So, like, look at that retaining wall cap up there. And watch me drain its health as I'm cleaning it here. See? So you can, if you're trying to hunt down something that you haven't cleaned yet, you could literally just be like, all right, hang on, and watch the upper left and be like, aha, that's what still needs cleaning. And, you know, just work on it. And, of course, as I mentioned earlier, that happens whenever you finish an object. It's actually funny. It's the opposite Chaotic Danny. So the game has a bit of a dynamic difficulty, I think is the word I want to use, when it comes to how much, like, actually how much you have to clean. So, like, that roof up there, as much as I don't like doing roofs, they're the easiest thing to clear by far, even though they're huge, because you only have to get, like, 90% of it for it to be considered done. But when you get to things like the windowsill, like this inside area of the windowsill, that's when you really have to get up there and get the nitty-gritty, because they require to get, like, 99% of that. So smaller stuff is almost always harder, in my experience. Like, to use an example here. This is honestly one of the harder vehicles I've done, because the initial stuff is easy. Like, well, this is going to take literal seconds. And we're done. But you have to clean this bike. Which means, like, you got to get in here. You got to get all the stuff in the engine there. You got to get all the sides. Oh, you got to get the inside of the tires. Like, there is a lot of stuff to this. You got to really get in here in order to clean this frickin' bike. And it actually takes several minutes, even though it's this dinky bike. By contrast, the van, which you probably saw on the select screen earlier, much easier to do and takes much less time. Yeah, there is just dirt everywhere. Just everywhere. And you might think, oh, this is going quickly. Well, I've done this before, so I know all the spots. You notice I'm already down here on my feet. Or on my belly, I guess. My feet? Really, Lore? Look, I haven't been sleeping well, okay? I suppose at some point I'm going to have to explain what the hell's been going on. Good morning, Roman Cure. Anybody who's part of the ReWrite project actually already knows what's going on, because it's been a topic over there. But, obviously that doesn't apply to everybody. Oh, dude, Jay Palmer, some of the things that are dirty, it's like, did they take a mud brush to this? Like, it's impressive how filthy some of the places are. I can't actually access it right now because negative to gameplay. But there's a skater park, and you think, how did you get the skater park that filthy? How is it physically possible to get the skater park as filthy as you did? Let's get up, because I need to get the top. I just realized I didn't finish this up. Another little quality of life feature I'm hoping to show off in a minute here, if I could ever... Okay, what am I missing there? Right there. Right there. Right down in there. There we go. Got the engine. Got that. So when you get down to the point where there's only a few things left, and it could be anywhere from 3 to 5, depending, it'll tell you this is what's left, right there in the upper left. So we need the fairing, the spoke, and the brake disc. Now the brake disc should be right here. And the spoke set, apparently, was right there too. So the fairing, what am I missing on the fairing? There it is, I see it, I see it. Ta-da! Now, one last little satisfaction thing. As I mentioned, this is kind of like a satisfaction game. You get to see what it looked like in Fast Forward when you're done. And that's just another little like a cherry on the top of having finished a job. You can even see it again if you missed it. Just do. It's really funny watching this when you're doing multiplayer and there's just people running all over the place getting it clean. It's satisfying. I like it. This is a surprisingly good game. I recommend it. I mentioned a negative to gameplay. I should probably explain that. So, co-op sucks. Here's the problem. So, you cannot co-op career mode, which is the primary mode. That's stupid. What you have to do is you have to co-op in either bonus jobs or free play. Now, the problem here is free play only has the stuff unlocked you've done in career mode. So, to make that very, very clear, in case I wasn't obvious about that, the only way to co-op this game is to have already done it all. And that's not great. Guys, I said I'd show this off. Oh, I guess I haven't done that yet. Yeah, no, it's terrible. It's really frustrating. You'll notice I don't have everything unlocked. That's because Gary is the one who's been doing all the unlocking. Loading dirt. Yeah, there's a couple on this one. So here we are in Midgar. Shinra building, like you do. Oh, I should change the song. Hang on, give me a sec. We gotta get this thing clean. Jeez, wait, what a mess. What a mess. Ugh. Ugh. And this thing. Oh, God. This is like the dumbest truck in the world. Who would he... Like, what is with this bit? My God. Meanwhile, Reeve is telling us stuff as we clean here. Thanks, Rave. Thanks, Rave. Appreciate you. Yeah, pretend this is all Genova goo we're cleaning off. We're just the live stream. We're just the live stream here. I would actually love to sit down with the art designers who designed this truck, among other things, in FF7, and be like, so, I'm not being judgmental, I'm just curious, like, what was going through your head when you designed this? Like, why did you... Why? Just why, you know? It's awful. Okay, I am being a little judgmental. I'll admit it. Oh, and to answer Dream Whisperer's question, there are wider sprays like this, but they have much less pressure, so they're kind of worthless unless you have a soap attachment, which I generally don't use. So those little pop-ups in the right, I mentioned there is a story to the game. There really is. There's a narrative, might be a better way to phrase that. It shows up mostly in those pop-ups. The general narrative is you've just started up a brand new business, a power washing business, and you get someone takes a chance on you, and it's like, hey, and it's like, oh, cool, and like bit by bit, more of the community calls on you, and then it's Castlevania time for some reason. And that's how the narrative of the core gameplay develops. There's also one for each of these bonus areas. Like if you go to Mars, they're like, yeah, so we've discovered some alien material that might be infecting you. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Also, your oxygen's getting a little low. No pressure, though. Because, you know, you're on Mars using a power wash. What am I missing on this thing? Oh, I forgot to get the engine. Whatever this is. And the tire, apparently. It's fine, Jay Palmer, it's fine. Terrible puns are my middle name. Or Terrible Puns Runner. Sorry, some of this, I hate getting some of the undercarriage things on cars. Power wash is great. It's so great. It's great. Everything's great. Everything's great forever. I need someone to come over here with a gun and shoot me, please. Just right in the face. Just make it quick. That's all I ask. Make it quick. Good morning, Bragwin. I say a couple more minutes. Probably have enough people on that I can go ahead and start talking about what the hell's been going on here. What is this song? Oh. Huh. I love how this stupid truck is so much harder to clean than this freaking motorcycle. Like, this motorcycle is just... and basically done. Like, look at it. It's just... there's no... It's all exteriors, right? It's all convex. So it's just, yep, we're good. God, Cloud, clean your crap, yo! Jesus. No, I don't think it's on the list yet, Melkor Blade. It might be soon. Let's see. Let's see. We'll see. Oh yeah, that money gets you upgrades. Some of you who are familiar with this game may be wondering why I'm using such low-level nozzles. It's because that's all I got. One and only one nice thing about multiplayer is whatever the host has unlocked for equipment, the party, you know, the co-op players also have access to. That's neat. That could be worse. I should probably say thank you to Mr. Red for donating, even though ironically, I was thinking about buying him something recently, getting a frickin' muffler for his, you know, oh my god, each of those are individual. For his microphone. Thank you very much, Mr. Red. Oof. And we're putting that down towards nothing. I know it. What am I missing? Oh, jeez, I'm missing a lot of stuff. This, we might have to actually up here. Like, no, the other direction. We might have to start using this thing. This is just turbo dirty here. My goodness. Yeah, later on you unlock this turbo nozzle, which like has the pressure of this one, but the much larger spray radius, and it does this this thing where it gets in an area. And it's just like, yeah, no, this is the death thing. This is in fact, oh no, I'm sorry, it was kerosene. Now this is not, but it was kerosene. You were correct, Maverick. Hey, Wraith. Jeez Louise, there's so many little cracks and crevices I'm just not getting. Look at this crap. Look at this crap. Come on. It's making fun of me because I said this would be easier to clean. I see how it is, game. I see how it is. Show me up. Show you up. With my face to your fist style. Points if you remember that movie. Nobody remembers that movie. That movie sucks. Nobody likes that movie. Except me. Like all my friends. I mean, honestly, the first time I think I've told this story, but the first time Gary ever sat me down to see that movie. So for those of you who haven't seen it, this is a very minor spoiler, but whatever. So the very first scene, right? It starts off as a bog standard, you know, Japanese or Chinese style kung fu movie, which all have a really basic pattern to them, right? They pretty much all of them follow the same story beats. So there's an evil person who shows up and is evil and attacks someone, usually innocent, usually like the main character's like family or loved one or whatever, and then kills them. And then it's like, oh no, and then they have to like train and come back. And you get it, you know the format. You've seen it before, you know what I'm talking about. So it starts off like that. And it starts off like that, and you're like, oh, okay. And I'm just sitting here watching this, like, I mean, I don't mind this style of movie, but I'm not sure why my friend is insisting I watch this so much. And so what happens... well, I'm not going to actually spoil what actually happens, but then the rest of the scene played. And I died. Oh my god, I died. I blew up, Alex. I did get it for the 3 Trails of games. Thank you, again, as always. I was just, it was so unexpected that's why I say it's kind of a spoiler. It's just, I was not prepared for what was going to happen next. And that's the perfect way to start that movie. And then it just goes off after that. I also love watching the behind the scenes, the pre-dubbed stuff, where they're just saying whatever nonsense comes to mind to fit the scene. What's really weird is it's actually a really technically impressive film. They put a lot of effort into the way that film is constructed. It's really funny how much work went into that. Yeah, Kung Pao, oh god, something of the fist? I can't remember the subtitle. Someone help me out here. So that other people can watch this movie someday, because it's a good movie. Enter the Fist. Thank you. Kung Pao, Enter the Fist. I legitimately recommend it. It's a ridiculous, silly comedy. And that's how I'm going to describe it. Is that everything? Nope. I saw something there. Where was it? Where was that? Let's be methodical. Let's be methodical. Being methodical. There it was. Right? You? Where is it? I just saw it. I just saw it. I take everything back. This friggin' thing sucks to clean. Oh my god. There it was. Rear plating. What am I missing on the rear plating? Oh, there we go. Just haven't gotten up. There we go. That should be it. Really quick, thank you, Wraith. I mean, this room should be flooded. Like, turbo flooded. There is a reference to the Matrix in it. I'm not going to explain what it is. Wraith, X64, Alan Wake, Resident Evil, I can type, Evil 8, Guild Wars 2. Thank you, much obliged. Yeah, it's a video game, we're cool, everything's cool. Everything's cool, we're all cool here. My immersion ruined forever. Alright, so let's get the exhaust here. I'm not gonna lie to you, it's not like the perfect film. It is a silly, ridiculous film. I think Mr. Red would like it. But, you know. For example. One of the things that irritates me on some of these levels is how much the individual pieces count. Like, there's one, it's like the shoe level. Remember that one? Anybody's played this? And the amount of individual parts that exist to be cleaned on that shoe level drives me absolutely bonkers. It's like, oh my god. Yeah, every frickin' piece of the frame. Ugh, drives me bonkers. Yeah, at this point, I'm just committed to finishing this level to see if it unlocks anything. Because we're almost done. Like, look at it, 99%. Come on. Come on, we're missing something on this stupid exhaust. Right, let's get the rest. There we go. Okay, then we got to get the door frame. And what else? What are we missing? What are we missing? The trailer. What are we missing? Ah! Get in there. There we go. And get this. And that. And this. This. Get inside there. Insides are the worst. Can't confirm. I did not actually, Zactef, sorry. Spider-Man 2 sounds pretty good. Dragon's Dogma 2 has everyone excited. How is this exhaust still this dirty? Aha! That's how. Being a dick, that's how. I'll clean you. I'll clean you all. Okay, now what? Yeah, there's a way to pull up a list. Here we go. What are we missing? What are we missing? I know there's a way to sort this stupid list. Oh, whatever. We need handles on the bike? What? Where are the handles on this thing? Which part of this monstrosity is a handle? Oh, I saw that. Okay. Sure, whatever. Not gonna question it, not gonna question it. I am, however, gonna say thank you, Rex. Zelda block. Kingdom Hearts block. 2D Sonic block. You got it. Thank you. Okay, so now, what are we missing? We're missing brake lights, bumper, and bumper guard. So brake lights is easy. Or rather, I know where brake lights are, so it's one of these. Somewhere on this is a... So, I say this game is well designed. There's kind of a caveat to that. Something I noticed very early on is the game... The engine that's determining what's clean is actually disconnected from the engine that's rendering the dirt. What that means, to try and give an example, is if I clean this spot right here, do you see that little spot in the middle? Well, if that's down to the pixel level, that might not be rendered. There literally might be no visible dirt there, because it's literally not being rendered in the game, right? So that's why when I got to the lights and when I got to the handlebar, now I just started doing this. Once I identified the part, I'm like, all right, where's the spot? Where's the spot? Because on some, especially the really small stuff, there's just nothing visible to see. So, okay, Bender. There it is. Oh, that's easy. I can see that right there. Get under here. Yeah, most part, like I said, the larger stuff is actually pretty easy. It's the small stuff that tends to be aggravating to deal with. Like I said earlier, the first time I saw a roof of a house, I was like, oh god, but no, roofs are easy. Oh, I did miss it, Berenian. I'm so sorry. Hang on, let me double check, Nate. I got a log. It's right there. It says, Happy Rewrite Day, but you didn't put it towards anything because you secretly hate me. But thank you very much, Brennian. Always appreciate. Really? You know, here, let's play something relevant to today, shall we? There we go. Okay, so what do we still need? Door handles and door hinges. There we go. Okay. Hey. So we need the tray wall and the wing mirror. Okay, so it's... what the hell's the wing mirror? It's not what I thought it was. No, it was exactly what I thought it was. It's Evo! Whose name is Evo, and not anything else. Tray wall. It's a tray wall. Oh! How did I miss something on this? He asks redundantly. Oh god, tell me about it. Like, you look at a fence and I say, oh, that's easy, and then you realize that you have to clean every side of that fence. Not all of which is going to be visible from every angle. Thank you, Evo. I bow! You didn't say not to bow. Infinite bows. Okay, let's see what this looked like in fast forward. Frickin'. Ta-da! So what do we unlock? The skull. What? This is the next one? Hang on. So Evo, give me a second. Evo, yummy, amazing, beautiful, wonderful. Donates towards Dragon Age block. Pathfinder, the super long game. An untitled Goose Game, which my niece has recently discovered and loves. Okay, so let's see what this looked like. Oh my god. Yep, that's, what did you step in? Like, what? What, Actually, so, funny story. You see this thing? This thing is literally invaluable. In fact, it's mandatory for some little later levels. But here's the really funny part. So, you get up here and you wash. Don't worry, I'll get you all washed. Please don't kill me while I'm washing you. Please don't kill me. There we go. Nice and clean, as all Shinra products should be. Okay, Brennian's donating towards... Hang on. Diablo 4. Loop Hero, and Oxygen not included. Done. Thank you, TSP. Thank you. Here's the deal. How many... Hang on, let me jump off to my death here. There we go. How many of you know you can move this thing? So, me and Gary, it took us a disturbingly long amount of time to figure out you can move this thing. Now, you're probably thinking, wow, you're dumb. No, hang on, it gets worse. Because it took us actually longer to figure out that ladders exist. Because ladders exist. Anyways. What specials are there right now? Tomb Raider. Where's the, is it right here? Oh yeah, so real quick, just for you, Mike Romano. Just for you. And thank you, Cycloud. We did shoe without a ladder, Wadi. We didn't figure that out for a while. There you go. I'm just going to leave this nice and big on the screen just for you, Mike Romano. Okay, so that was Cycloud. 2 pages of donations. So that's going for the Resident Evil block. Dragon Quest 8. Yeah, it probably says something, and the Pixel Remasters. Thank you again, Cycloud. It probably says something about Gary and I both that we just kind of assumed that was, like, what was required. And we just kind of bomb jumped our way through the shoe. Because you can actually, like, glitch your way up terrain by kind of abusing the loose physics engine like that, like I just did. And so that's how we did the shoe. We took it as a jumping puzzle. Hang on, I got a better one. We did the skate park without the ladder. See, I figured that'd be more impressive, because, god dang, that was much harder to do. Good lord. Like, honestly, the shoe was just, alright, and angle, and glitch out physics, and we're good. The skate park was, alright, if you go to the side an inch, you're gonna fall off and have to start all over from the beginning. Much more frustrating. I should probably stop playing this game at some point. Actually, I have, Evo. In fact, I almost did. Not quite, but I almost did while my leg wasn't working properly. You know, pretty recently after the accident when I was run over by a car. Didn't happen, though. Just almost happened. Thank you, 040I2. Very much appreciate, always. And if you want to put that towards anything, do please let me know. Yeah, this game, it's... Like I said, the only reason I haven't been playing more of this game lately is because it allows me to think too much, which I suppose is a good segue into what the hell's been going on. Okay, so let me pop out of here. Let me quit the game. I might as well just be honest with y'all. Alright, so... yeah, we got another hour till the video goes live, so that's cool. We got tons of time. Thank you, Chaotic Danny. I will boost the previous thing with that. You're fine, Mr. Ed. We're not done with the short dark. This is a blip. This is a blip. Chaotic Danny was right here, and I'll put it towards StarCraft, Xenoblade, and Zelda. Hey, Evo. Boo! Alright, so... So I've already given the bombshell, but for anybody who didn't hear it earlier, I'm not sure where I will be living next week. Okay, there's the bombshell. I always start with the bombshell. And 040 is putting that towards Voyager. Lower Decks. Looks like a trend here. And Strange New Worlds. Yeah, so, okay. Now let's go through this in order. So, God. No, Mr. Red. You've decided to stab me to death instead. Yes, death to landlords and to the living. So... Let me write down Mr. Red's things. Yakuza 3, Yakuza 4, Vampire Survivors. You gotta start with Vampire. Thank you, Mr. Red. Several months ago, a new holding company purchased the company that owns the property I live in. I live in an apartment complex, 1 bedroom, dinky little thing, but it satisfies. I'm not super happy with here, but it's okay. It's cool. You know, it's the best that's available. Remember that for later. So, that sucks. They've already proven themselves incompetent on 3 separate instances. Now, my lease is up next Wednesday. Now, what normally happened in the... So the new holding company... Sorry, let me actually rewind a second. I'm doing this out of order. The new holding company decided to fire the 3 people who ran the office and replace them with a new person who is 1 instead of 3. Pause. So, here's the issue. First of all, there's this weird problem that a lot of managers have where they think that math is linear when it comes to work hours. For example, if I hire 3 people to work 30 hours, I could just hire 1 person. So I'm saying that wrong. If I hire 3 people and each of them work separate 10-hour shifts, I could just hire 1 person to work 30-hour shifts, and it's equal. But that's not how that works. Math isn't linear when it comes to dynamic stuff like work hours and people and the thousands and thousands of variables that go into that. So yeah, that's overwhelmingly not how that works. So they fired the 3 people and replaced them with 1. And you already see the problem there. By the way, they did that to the maintenance staff too, which is some of the problems I was having. So yeah, that's a horrible problem. Hang on, second problem. Normally there's what's referred to as a transitionary period. Let me use a made-up example. Yeah, I'm not even counting overtime and stuff. Let's say, for example, that I decide to hand off the ReWrite project to Evo. She is now in charge of the ReWrite project. So there needs to be a transitionary period where I explain to her methodology, how the channels work, who works with what kind of schedules and reliability and microphone setups all of the actors have. You know, all of the hundreds of things that go into making a rewrite. Yeah, the turnover, exactly, Maverick. There needs to be a turnover period where I help the new person get used to it, which didn't happen. So the new person was just in charge. Congrats. So 1 person doing the work of 3 people without the turnover, without a transitionary period. So that's already a terrible thing. and really, really not indicative, well, or rather very indicative of how much these people have no idea what they're doing. Pause. Thank you, little Billy. I will not, however, put that towards Patchwalker. If you want to put it towards something else, please let me know. So, that's problem one. The next problem is about 2 months ago, roughly. So, beginning of May, I think. What month are we in? Yeah, at the beginning of May, what should have happened, what normally happened, is I would find a either a letter or last year, because I'm lived here for a couple years now, just a pamphlet of the paperwork I need to renew my lease. No, wait, we're in May. Hang on, what month is this? Okay, on the first week of April, 2 months ago, what should have happened is there should have been a pamphlet, and I shot Mr. Red for correcting me, and this pamphlet should have had, because you're making me lose my train of thought now, this pamphlet should have had the new lease in it, and it should also be earmarked for the places which I need to sign, and for the changes to the lease from the previous year. Now, that's a quality of life feature I don't really need, but that's how it was previous year. So I'd go through it, I'd sign it, slide it under the door, we're done. Lease renewed, cool. I usually read the lease because I'm not an idiot, but you get the overall idea. Nothing happens until the beginning of this month, of course, at which point I'm like, okay. So I walk in person, with my paperwork ready to go, and I'm like, hey, I'm here to sign my new lease. Oh, yeah, no, we're going to get that to you. Okay, and they mentioned an interview, and I'm like, okay, whatever. Week goes by, I call in, hey, hello? Yeah, no, sorry, I'm gonna get the paperwork out this week. Okay. Week goes by. I walk in again, hey. I'm actually being facetious, because it's not a week that goes by. Actually, the rate of me bothering this woman actually kind of increases over time. Because as the time shrinks to when my lease is up, which I remind you is next Wednesday, June 1st, is going to be the actual end date. As that time shrinks, I'm getting a little bit more frantic, a little more panicked, like, hello? What's the frickin' delay? Now, weeks ago, this is great music for this. The name of this song is Despair. So as time... No, it doesn't work that way, Loner. The lease will be done on the 1st. I have until Wednesday to sort this out. Correct, Giga Pudding. So I'm like, alright, look, question mark? Now, this past week, I go in physically again, and I'm like, alright, hey, and what happens is she blows up at me. And she pretty much has like a little meltdown and starts yelling and ranting. It's worth noting, I'm actually pretty good at reading people, but I might be very wrong about this woman. I don't think she's complicit in all this. I just think she's been handed a bad take on this whole thing. But she blows up at me and she's like, oh my god, and she starts ranting because her uneaten lunch is sitting in front of her, which she has not had a chance to eat because she's been so busy. Now, this is a very appropriate music to explain the corporate overlords in this situation. So I'm like, all right, here, let's really just... I can be pretty intimidating. I can come on hard, as I like to say it. I can walk up and be like, look. But, and that was actually my mentality walking in. I was going to go ahead and be like, look. Hair billowing behind me. Cape flickering in the wind. But, yeah, so, let me get it slightly more appropriate. What playlist am I on? Oh, that's why. This is a weird selection of music. No, that makes perfect sense. Yeah, let's switch over here. So I was like, look, But I didn't. I didn't do that. I decided to be like, okay, look, it sucks that you're dealing with that. I'm sorry they're pushing this on you. Um, my lease is up next week. So she gives me a story which may or may not be a lie. And that we're kind of building up to something here. She mentions that she had this stuff ready to go a couple of weeks ago, which would line up with part of the timeline from my perspective. Now, that's still late. That's still, arguably incompetent, because this stuff should have been dealt with, again, months, plural, ago. Not just from my perspective, although obviously that's true from my perspective as well, since, basic human decency, but also from their perspective. If they just kind of suddenly run over the clock on someone and they don't know if they're going to be there or not, they not only risk losing a tenant, but they do actually risk losing some strikes on the record, and there's going to be a transitionary period where they have to spend more money in order to touch up the unit before they can sell it again, and they literally have dead time. For those who are not familiar with it, most apartment complexes have this concept called dead time, where you can't rent out a unit yet, and you're spending money on it. So it's just kind of like, and yeah, this also is turbo opening the door for legal action, which admittedly I'm probably not going to do, but they don't know that. So I'm like, look, yeah, to clean and to inspect and to do any touch-ups that need to be done and all that fun stuff. So that's, you get it. So, and legal action also goes money. Yeah, it really does. But I could actually sue these people over what's happened. I could actually, as of right now. We'll see where this goes. Like I said, nothing's landed yet, which is why the short dark isn't over yet. So here's the deal. I'm not going to lie to you. I had a few depressive days. In fact, I lost 2 days to my to just mental health. And I don't have a better way to say that. But even with that, I was ready to go. Here, I'll give you the exact date. I was ready to go and get back to streaming on, gosh, that would have been about the 16th. So not quite 2 weeks ago. But the problem was this whole situation was escalating and getting worse at the time. So I was like, well, I don't want to start streaming and then interrupt myself, right? By having to move. So I thought, no problem. I'll just go ahead. I'll get some more work done. RFF2's script is completely done and is already in casting. RFF3 is actually well into production at this point, along with future stuff and, just stuff like that, getting stuff done. But, as this continued to drag out, my mental health is actually getting worse because here's the real problem. So I have a bolt hole. I do have a place where I can be taken in and survive. So I'm not going to be homeless. The bolt hole is not ideal. It's not. It's not something I want to happen. It's not something anybody wants to happen. It would be a terrible timing, and it would be uncomfortable and awkward and blarg. But it is something that's possible. So don't be afraid. I'm not going to go back to being homeless. We're good on that front. But obviously nobody wants that to happen, including me, which brings me to now. So what really, really cycled me into an actual panic cycle is this week, just this last week. Because here's the problem. You know how, maybe you don't know, when it comes to problem solving, you tend to think like optimal situation and then, okay, acceptable losses and then unacceptable losses and then worst case scenario. It's like, it's tiered, right? It's tiered. So obviously, ideally, I'd like to live somewhere near my family in a place that has good internet that, is a clean, safe environment. That's pretty much the needs, right? That's not happening. There is no such place, except for the place I'm currently living at. But to explain that a little bit, and I mean this with total sincerity, there is another apartment complex which is a decent environment, decent area. It actually has Google Fiber. It is within the area, so I'd be able to still have access to my family and all that. And it is roughly $397 a month more than what I currently pay. $400 a month more for as good as what I currently have. So that's not ideal. And again, there would be no increase in quality of living from that. In fact, actually, arguably, it would be detriment to quality of living for that, for reasons I'm not going to get into. So that sucks. And so I'm looking at that option. I'm like, okay, well then we go down a step. Well, what's the next acceptable thing? Well, there's a couple of places. So let's just start with this. No place around here is going to have decent internet other than the two options here and there. So I'm going to have to downgrade to Comcast, which means my overall monthly expenses are going up. Because remember, Comcast costs about $200 a month instead of the 70 or 40, excuse me, that I currently pay on Google Fiber. So that's not great. So then you have to remember that most of the places' prices also are higher. So all of the other options would be me paying more, less more, but about $200 more a month. And then about $200 more a month for worse internet, for a worse place to live in a worse environment. So I would have to pay roughly $400 a month more for worse across the board. But at least I'd get to stay in the area. Now, at this point, the despair is starting to claw at the back of my mind. And I'm like, no, it's okay. I know how to lock down. I know how to just knuckle under for a bit and just accept it. So, like, maybe I could find a place that's not nearby. It'll turbo suck to miss out on a year of my family's life and a year on my niece. But at the very least, I could survive someplace for a bit while we try to figure out something more long-term. So I start looking elsewhere, and because I can work anywhere in the country, right? It doesn't really matter. There's nowhere better. I'm just gonna get that out there. It doesn't exist. The cheaper places, at least what used to be the cheaper places to live in this country, are the same price range. And obviously, once again, for worse across the board. That's about when the panic actually hit, because I realized that I was stuck. I realized that there was nothing I could do. That even if I took the worst case scenario, it still wouldn't work. It's still not a viable option. Thank you, Narset, for the sub. I will jot that down for a couple things. I'm not back. I'm explaining currently why I haven't been back and why I'm still not back. Dungeon Siege 2. Yeah, I don't want to get too polemic, but saying that people have a right to have actual housing is not polemic. So, what? It's actually, what's really, really funny is if you actually really zoom the camera in. It's not like this isn't an easy patch fix situation, right? From a grand scale, from a national scale. This is the kind of situation that cannot be fixed by someone just flipping a switch or passing a law. This is the kind of thing that's going to require a very large scale, long-term, in-depth series of solutions to solve the many holes across the system, because there's a lot going on here in multiple directions. Oh, okay. Well, hi, Shadow Machine. So, anyways, let's not get into stuff I have no power to affect. Let's talk about reality. So, like I said, I don't have a better option, which leaves me with a very simple choice. Now, the woman in the office has been understanding and kind, and I'm fairly good at reading people, especially now. I'm pretty sure she's legit. She has actually been comforting in all of this. She's been like, it's okay, we're going to work this out, we're going to get through this, honey. Like, she actually called me honey. She's like, it's okay, we're going to make this happen. We're going to process this, we're going to get you your paperwork, and we're going to get you signed in, and you're going to get to keep your place. And I have the choice to believe her and try to hold on to this place, because this is as good as it's getting. Like, period. Or the alternative option would be to just go ahead and pull the trigger on the bolt hole and bailing. And when you break it down to that level, it's a very, very simple choice. So I've decided to gamble. The potential, what I've put on the table, the ante that I have gambled, is this might negatively affect my credit rating if they decide to go ahead and evict me based on some paperwork snafus. Um, if she is lying, or if she's powerless to actually help. If they are actually trying to force me out, then I'm going to get forced out. But at that point, I'll be going to the bolt hole anyways, is kind of the logic here. So it will cost me, probably in time and stress and fees, and most likely a credit rating hit. But I'm willing to gamble that and put that on the table for the chance that I can keep this crummy one-bedroom apartment that I hate. Because this is as good as it's getting. Countrywide. That's where I'm at right now. Depends on how they do it paperwork-wise, Maverick, but in the state I live in, you can be evicted for letting a lease expire. Oh, I've been keeping records from the beginning, Roman Cure. It's yeah, long habit on that one. So I have the backup plan. What I've also been doing every week when I go to visit my sister is I've also been taking stuff there. I actually have very little in the apartment right now. I've got my bed, a few cooking things, a few boxes that are going tomorrow, and then the set. And this is kind of it at this point. Yeah. So, but yeah, no, the problem is Melkor Blade says it's not really about who's at fault. It's more about how things line up legally. And there's two ways that can go. One is they can decide to not push it into courts, which would actually be ideal. Or they could decide to pull it into the courts, which would be awful. Even if the judge ends up going my way, that still costs time and money and stress. And if, oh, by the way, if a judge swings my way on that one, I don't get anything. Like, I don't win anything. I win the fact that I'm innocent and I can go home to my bolt hole where I've already gone. So, that's where I'm at. A strange, terrifying situation. I could sue for damages. I'd lose. Like, guaranteed. Guaranteed I'd lose that. No question. But that's why I haven't been streaming. That's why, even though I've been ready for about 2 weeks to go back to streaming, in terms of, like, I got all the work done I wanted to get done. RFF1 is obviously done. It's going live in about 40 minutes. And RFF2 is actually well into production. We already have most of the casting done for RFF2. I've been doing work on RFF3 and some future stuff, and I got a whole bunch of other stuff done on the side, and nobody cares. But that's where I'm at now. Thank you, Dark Day. So, with all that negativity out of the way, let's talk about rewrites, shall we? So, today we're going to go ahead and go live with... Here, let's go ahead and pop this. And switch over. I've actually got a song that was ready to go. Hello? There it is. Yeah, so Rewrite 1. Rewrite Run. Brig went, no, don't do that. Don't do that. It's okay. I'll live. Well, I'll survive either way. I probably won't live, if we're being honest. It's okay. If you're sure, you don't have to. You really don't. Especially since I know you've got your own issues looming on the horizon. We all have our issues, right? Like, can we have, like, just one person who's just cool? Anyways, okay, so let me completely switch mental tracks here. And see, this is the problem. If I can be very, very selfish at the moment, the problem I've been having for the past 2 weeks is I am so stressed that it's been hard to do anything. My friends, my dear, dear friends, have been doing a really great job of keeping me distracted and keeping me involved in something, because I can't sit and play games Like, I know I'm kind of the exception in that, but when I'm in a bad mood, I don't play like FF6 to cheer me up. I can't. I can't play anything, so I can't do anything to relax or enjoy myself. And I can't work because I can't concentrate properly, except for only a few hours in the day. So I have been very unproductive for about 2 weeks now. It's great. Like, honestly, right, I should have the script for FF3 done right now. It only takes me a few days once I'm done with the outline to slam out a script. I should have that done. Anyways, so I apologize for doing nothing for 2 weeks. But let's talk about the rewrites. So obviously we're going for the Final Fantasies. So RFF1. So okay, obviously we did our Diablo, right? Diablo rewrite happened. It was fantastic. I know that it's only got like 3 views, but those 3 people saw an amazing work, and it's fantastic. And I was super duper happy with it. And all 3 people who saw it loved it, right? So, okay, awesome. So full tilt right into the next one I wanted to do, which was the Final Fantasies. Now, Final Fantasy 1, the one that's going to be going live today, was a challenge I've wanted to do for years. For years, I've wanted to do a rewrite of Final Fantasy 1, or actually a remake, because I wanted to make a game, but whatever. And I really, really wanted to tackle it. And it's because it's such a unique challenge to me. In fact, this is so old, I've talked about this during the lore run of FF1. In fact, I think I talked about this during the marathon of FF1. It's a specific type of challenge. It's when you have... It's not a complete blank sheet of paper, but what you have is like some bullet points. And so you have to extrapolate full depth of world and plot and setting and character and all the events that are happening from bullet points. And so it's a unique type of challenge. It's very rare that you'll have this kind of challenge. It's almost like getting a writing prompt, except worse, because it's like getting 15 writing prompts, right? We have character names, we have locations. You get it, right? So I've wanted to do this for years for FF1 specifically. Excuse me, a little dry. I need to get the power wash. Never do that. Never do that. That will kill your throat. That might literally cause bleeding and, like, you'll have to go to the hospital. Don't do that. No. All right. So, oh my God. At least the notifications are showing up again. Thank God for that. So the idea here is, all right. No, Giga, no, Mr. Red, no. How do I know? Well, my first death. Where's my notes? I don't even have my notes up. Here we go. Water flossers. Okay, those teeth are gone. Those teeth are gone. So first, remember, you don't have to split it up. Not 0. I will put it equally towards each. But second of all, thank you very, very, very much for your support. It is really, really valuable because as much as my life sucks right now, and it does, it could be worse. Because if you guys weren't supporting me and I didn't still make a living wage, I would have no options. I would not be able to keep this place. I should know. I've been there. I have been in that circumstance. So, let me go ahead and say thank you very, very much. And we're going to put that, not 02, towards, I believe that was God of War 5. Yes, God of War 5. God of War 5. And then Book of Boba Fett. You got it. Thank you very, very, very much. FF1. So, I'm like, okay, let's do FF1. And FF1, I'm not going to lie, was actually quite a challenge. I had been already doing some ideas and tossing around. Got some really great help from the writer's room. I don't want to spoil, but let's just say certain characters and scenes turned out a certain way. Pretty much because of ideas from the writer's room, so y'all have been awesome on that. But I wanted to do what I always want to do, is I want to tell a complex, tight, in-depth story, which admittedly demands that the viewer's paying attention. But I don't really feel bad about that. I didn't feel bad about that in Our Diablo, and I don't feel bad about it here. Or in 2, by the way, because FF2 is already scripted, remember. Because I've always believed that it's better to treat the audience like they have a brain than treat them like they're a moron. Now, I know I say that so negatively, but it's worth noting that I'm not necessarily right about that. That's just a choice. That's an opinion. There is something to be said about treating the audience like they're an idiot. I'm slanting that. I apologize. There is something to be said about baby feeding. Nope, still slanting it. There is something to be said about telling the audience everything that's going on. Let's put it that way. There. Nice and neutral. And there is something to be said about that. And there's a validity to it because it can be done well and it can be done poorly, and you get the idea. I'm not into that. I would much rather let the audience figure things out. I tend to do a lot of my world building in how the characters naturally act and react to each other. There's a huge amount of dialogue where someone will just say something naturally to someone else, and if you're not paying attention, you won't catch it. But if you are paying attention, to be like, oh, that's why that's that way. And I do that very deliberately because that's the kind of writing I like, right? So that's just my approach, FYI. I'm not saying I'm a smart writer. I'm just saying that I prefer to write things more from the perspective of letting the audience Dark Souls it up, if you will, rather than just being like, here you go, here's what's going on. So there's not going to be a long... Yeah, the idea is the audience should be paying attention to one of my scripts. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, that's opinion. I'm not into that. I'm just explaining. So I'm like, okay, I want that kind of a story from FF1. How do I do this? I know, Scante. Lots of people make way too much money by treating their audience like they're morons. Look how much money Avatar 2 made sometime. Anyway, so... look, I'm not into opinions, Muad'Dib. I can't. That's whatever. That's over there. Point being... But I'm not trying to blow smoke up my own ass. I'm literally just trying to explain the mentality I had walking into FF1. Because FF1's vanilla plot is something I could probably describe in 2 sentences if I really worked on it. A paragraph would be all it would take. And I know you can say that about a lot of stories, but no, really. 4 heroes go on a quest to restore the Sword of Crystals. Oh my gosh, time travel. That's kind of it. That's kind of the full extent of the plot. There's nothing there. There's so little story there, which goes back to the challenge I mentioned earlier. So it's like, okay, let's tie this up. And I should probably talk a little bit about my creative process, not because I want to, but because a weirdly large number of people have asked me to. So a lot of people like to sit down and they have an allegory in mind, or they have a theme in mind, or they have, like, you know, they really want to tell a story about such and such, right? I don't do that at all. As I've said many times, my only goal is to make a good story. But, so what I do then, and this is a very strange and backwards way to do it, I'll admit it. Yeah, exactly, Rex. I'll look at I like to start at what I call bedrock. We establish the bedrock, how the setting works, make some rules. Like, for our Star Wars, which we're actually well into production on at this point, our Star Wars is... the first thing we did was we'd established what the Force is and how the Force operates. Bedrock, right? Okay, now we know how that works, so that helps to inform a whole lot of other things, and we build up, right? So I start with the bedrock, I establish a few rules, and then I think, okay, let's start outlining. Now, outline's a vague term here, but I use that vaguely on reason. Like right now I'm outlining RFF3, for example, and 4 and 5. So, damn it, Evo! So I outlined RFF1, and I'm like, okay, we've got a vague idea of events, and the more I looked at it, the more I realized that FF1's story has the weirdest pacing. Because in terms of events, it's like, okay, you go to here, you fight Garland, you take with Makoya, you go to the Provoca to deal with the pirates, go to the elves, go to Astos, go to the cave, go to Astos, go back here, turn in the thing, get the ship back, Help the Elven King or Prince, excuse me. Turn that back into the King of Cornelia. Open the pathway out of the sea, and you're good, right? And all of this is like 75% of the story, but only like 25% of the game, because the events that happen afterwards, we have a channel for it, Cord. It's happening all the time. So it's the events that happen after it is, okay, so, oh my gosh, the Earth is rotting. You defeat the vampire. You go talk to the giants. You defeat the leech. Done. Okay. You go to the ice cave to get access to the airship. You get the airship. You go to the volcano. Done. Okay. Like, there's nothing there for the latter half of the game. It's weird. And I just decided to kind of lean into that. This is that bullet point thing, right? So I'm looking at that initial continent and the initial... oh my god, TSP. I was not e-begging, I swear to god. I'm going to keep talking for a second. You look at the initial continent, where a lot of the action happens, and you've got Cornelia, you've got Provoca, you've got Elfheim, you've got the Marsh Cave, you've got Astos, you've got the volcano, you've got the Crescent Lake, the island of the sages. And I'm looking at this continent, and it just sort of naturally, the polities kind of grew as I was looking at it. So obviously Cornelia is a kingdom, okay, and that's going to be a human kingdom. Okay, that works out. Why don't we lean into racial tensions? Okay, not too far, though. That's too easy of a thing. And I immediately pull back on that. I'm like, no, I don't want this to be a racist story. So instead, the tensions are more geopolitical. Okay, so that means access to territory. That means identifying something that's valuable. How about that canal? It's the only water access to that inner sea, right? It's like controlling Gibraltar or whatever on the Mediterranean. So it's like, okay, that's what starts this conflict. Okay. So then I start thinking, all right, what are the other powers at play here? Don't worry, King Steve's Kick-Apris is not actually part of the plot at all. I actually mentioned it once in the whole story. Points if you even notice when I mention it. So we've got the Kingdom of Cornelia, and they're having issues with whom? Well, the only major other castle in the area is the elves. In fact, there's two of them, if you remember, because even in the story, there's like the Elven Kingdom, and then there's like this abandoned fortress over there. And I'm like, okay, so the elves are the second major power. No problem. Cool. So we've got two major powers, but I'm like, well, that doesn't quite work. Why are there only two powers in this entire sea? And I kind of wanted to drift in another direction, so I decided to turn the Crescent Lake into what I call the Sagehood. That's the Mage Nation. And I decided 3 was good. There's references to other individual polities here, but the 3 are the big powers. And then I'm like, okay, well, what are the other major cities of, like, substance within the game? Because there's a few other towns, but only really 3 of them that matter. Those are Melmond, Onrak, and Lufane, of course. And I'm like, well, Lufane, we're just going to throw that out the window because they're dumb. But Onrak, we know that the merfolk live up there, and we know we're already leaning into people having issues living alongside each other. Why don't we go ahead and say that the merfolk have been not quite xenophobic, but a little Japanese about things? So they're just like, So they're kind of off on their own, doing their own thing. And then Melmond, the more I thought about Melmond, the more I wanted it to be the total opposite of everything I've described right now. Because there's the human kingdom, there's the Elven Kingdom, there's the Mage Kingdom, there's the Merfolk Kingdom, and then there's Melmond, which is everything. It's the melting pot. In fact, I actually refer to it in the script at one point as the Melting Mound, which is its proper name. Melmond is a shorthand for the place. So Melting Mound, okay? That's the melting pot. Everybody lives there. Why there? That's a good question. See, if you're paying attention to the construction, I hope you're taking notes here, random. If you're paying attention, all of this just kind of grows naturally as I'm thinking, and that's why I'm talking this all out loud to you, because this is kind of how my words go, my story ideas go. So what's so significant about Melmond? I've got it. I already had an idea for the crystals. My vague idea for the crystals at this point is that the crystals were artificial constructs that kind of redirect the ley line. Okay, so there's already natural ley lines, but the crystals kind of redirect and refocus that. So you've got the lush, the jungle areas down here by the Sagehood. You've got the beautiful lush water, waters up here. Air's doing whatever, and then you've got Earth. Okay, so now, because I needed an answer to the question, why is Melmond the melting pot? The answer is because this place is turbo rich in everything. It's not just fertile land, as Darkrai mentions. This place also has an abundance of mineral wealth as well. So this place is turbo wealthy. And you're probably thinking, well, that means one nation would control it, right? In real life history, generally when you have a single spot of tremendous power, there's one of two things that happen. Either it changes hands every 5 weeks, or nobody owns it. And I liked the latter idea better. That's why that's the melting pot. That's why everybody lives there. That's why Melmond kind of has its own thing going on. In fact, I reference in the script that Melmond doesn't even have a unified government. It just has the guilds, which all kind of do their own thing and vie amongst themselves. You got Venice, exactly. So that's Melmond. Okay. So now, if you're paying attention, we've done a lot of world building in just the initial outlining, right? So we've got some nations, we've got some polities, we've got how the crystals work and what the crystals are doing. And because we have now designed what the crystals are doing, we already have our dilemma. These crystals are redirecting elemental energy into the area, making them better. What happens if anything goes wrong with that? This is when I paused to figure out what the main plot was. And to say thank you to Captain Vice. Thank you, Captain Vice. Always appreciate it. If you want to put that towards something, please let me know. Now, I'm not actually going to spoil the main plot for you for reasons I feel are actually self-evident, because I do kind of want you to watch the video that's going on here. The video that's about to go live in like 26 minutes now. Hey, Benvolium. Hi. And gone. But you're always welcome here. You can lurk, you can chat, you can hang out. You're more than welcome here. We here at the Lore Walkers are cool with Loikas. God of War 5. You got it. Thank you always, Captain Vice. No, exactly, Darkrai. So nobody has ever gone after Melmond, because the moment anybody does that, everybody's after them. You need an overwhelming amount of power at your back in order to go and take Melmond. And nobody has that, especially because they're all vying against each other, right? The Sagehood are technically neutral too, but they're more like, what's that stupid fish city in KOTOR 1 that I actually love? But I can't think of the name of it right now. I say city, I mean planet, because this is Star Wars. Manon. So the Sagehood are a little bit more like Manon. They have enforced neutrality, but as I talked about in the lore run and the review of that, enforced neutrality is the kind of thing that you really have to work on constantly. So there's a lot of implications that'll happen throughout the course of this story about how the Sagehood operates. They have the only functional airship in the area. Good timing on the music. And they go out of their way to make sure to accept people from all races. No judgment in any direction here. And they go way out of their way to not have any official interactions with anybody, even when it would be beneficial to both parties to do so. And it's this whole dance they have to do constantly, especially because they're a city of mages, which you might think, they have the power. No, that gives them an edge, but in cold calculus, like if Cornelia, for example, declared war on the Sagehood, Cornelia would win that conflict. The Sagehood instead uses something that Rax named, which is Arcane Spec Ops, ASO. They don't really have a strong military in the strictest sense of the word. They instead have special operations, and they kind of use that to kind of try... That's pretty much their only real hand of political maneuvering they've got, is they send them out to do little things here and there to try and keep things going the way that they feel that they should. Exactly. Could Cornelia fight the Sagehood while the elves are watching? No. You know what would really suck is if a massive plague hit the elves. This was actually an idea my sister came up with, because I was facing several problems. A lot of my writing boils down to puzzle solving and problems that need to have solutions. And I realized that I needed a reason for the elves and the humans to be in a state where they're not at war, but they're definitely not on good terms, but they're good enough that they could become on good terms. I needed Britain and France. And I'm like, okay, how do I make this happen? And my sister came up with the idea of a plague. Just a normal plague, nothing magical. I'm just going to give this away right now. It's no like there's no like plot. There's no like I will develop the plague and it will rage. It's just a plague. It's a plague. Like plagues happen in medieval times. So there is a plague that recently swept through Elfheim. And that just kind of made them go, and that sort of sets the stage for a lot of things. And I'm trying to not give away too much here, because I really do want you to actually watch the video. But you get the idea. So, okay, now we've got a plague involved, which they're currently still in the middle of recovering from. It's like, okay, it's mostly run its course, but... yeah, exactly, Shadow Machine. It's a plague. That's how plagues work. By the way, thank you, Venters. Always appreciate that support for 5 years. If you don't want to, what you want to put that 5-year sub towards, please let me know. Exactly, Melkor Blade. Because the plague is a completely natural event, anybody can blame anybody else. You know that there were people who were pointing to the mages and saying, "Did you send a plague in here?" The mages are like, "No, no, no. We've been very neutrally trying to help with the plague, with our white mages that we've been sending out." So, you'll notice I haven't talked about character at all. Now, I'm mentioning this now. Oh, it's this frickin' merfolk. I'm mentioning this right now because one of the biggest concerns some people who are in chat right now had was that I was writing stories that were all about world and plot and completely ignoring characters. Now, I get that. I was irritated when I first heard that because I'm like... But it's okay, because people who don't know me, don't know my writing style, could naturally assume that. You'll notice I haven't talked about characters yet. That's because I haven't gotten there yet in my writing process. Characters are actually one of the very last things I design. I know that sounds strange, but it works better in my head, in the way that I write. So we've established the world, we've established the setting, we have a bit of the current politics and the immediate timeline. Okay, now one of the first decisions I said very, very early on was I want there to be 6 main characters. All the classes, right? So I'm like, okay, no problem. We're gonna have all 6 characters be the main party. How do we do this? And so one of the earliest questions I asked the writers' room was, we could do all 6 start off, or we gather party members as we go. And everybody agreed, including me, that it would be better if we get party members as we go. So you actually start off with just fighter and monk. And then we get the thief at Provoca, we get the red mage down in Elfheim. When we go over to Melmond, we get the black mage, and then we go over to the Sagehood and deal with the volcano, Mount Gulg. That's when we get the white mage. Now, this was tricky to do. I wanted to kind of push each of the characters as early as I could, because I don't want to have last character syndrome. I hate last character syndrome. But at the same time, I wanted the way that party members joined the party to be a natural flowing dynamic. Anybody who saw our Diablo knows what I mean by that. The way that the 2 parties slowly developed across our Diablo was all something that was a very natural thing that was informed by the events of the plot and made sense and yada, yada, yada. So, okay, cool. So obviously it's like, okay, how the hell do I do this? And so figuring out which piece joined where was a big deal. Once I had who joins where kind of dialed in, and there was a big question mark on one of those, which I'm not going to spoil right now, but there was a big question mark on one of the characters in Elfheim specifically. I'll give that away. It's like, okay, now I have to establish who is what. And there was a lot of discussion about this, because if you're paying attention, a lot of species are represented in RFF1. Believe it or not, that's kind of a plot point. Not for this game, but for future games. So, in generic terminology, the area that FF1 happens in is what I call the Crystal Isles. It's a relatively small portion of land, globally speaking. It may be kind of the size of like the British Isles, maybe not even that big, but something along that size. So it's like we've got the Crystal Isles here, which have these crystals, which are flowing energy into them and making it super abundant. And now something's gone wrong with those crystals, so that sucks. Oh my gosh, what do we do? So that's the problem they have to solve. The problem I have to solve is what's exactly going wrong with the crystals, because it's not enough. Like a lot of fiction will do something and say, the crystals are corrupted. And it's like, okay, what does that mean? Well, we're not going to explain that because this is an RPG from the 80s. Okay, but I don't work that way. I need to have an explanation. Why are the crystals being corrupted? What specifically is happening? Exactly, Roman Cure. The people of the Isles don't even know the crystals are there. They predate most of the people settling in the Isles. So it's like, okay. Got an idea. Put it in the manual. No, that's dumb. This is not. No! This is not. Thank you, Dark Prince Ribbon. If you know what you want to put that towards, please let me know. So the 4 fiends are draining power. What? That's an answer? But what are the 4 fiends? And for that matter, what are they draining it for? And why? And where's the power going? And how would draining energy cause the land to rot? Now, I'm not going to answer any of these questions, but not right now. I'll answer them in the script. But the point is, these are all the questions I found myself facing. This is when the plot really starts to come into focus. You notice we've designed the setting, we've designed the world, we've designed the vague outline, and we need to design a little bit of the plot. So I start figuring out what is actually going on here. Once I have the dilemma, now I can think, how do they solve it? Ironically, in this case, the solution's very easy, but I'm not going to get into that right now. Ace Combat 5, Batman, not Batham. I just wrote down Batham. Well, obviously that's not true in this version, though, Blow Alex. But I get your point. Let's see here. So, where am I at? And what's the third game? Dragon's Dogma. There it is. Dragon's Dogma 2. No, I'm joking. Batham. It's actually no. It could be ham made out of bats. It could be like a superhero, like a Batman who's a pig. Or my personal favorite, it's just a giant chunk of ham with the Bat logo stamped on it, and that's all it is. Anyways, so I'm trying to avoid spoilers, but you can see how this is all developing. You notice I still haven't really talked about characters. That's because I haven't really thought about characters yet. I've got an idea of the plot, I've got an idea of the outline, I know the sequence of events, and I know how events have to happen. Then I sit down, and I've got a text document, which literally has the outline written out. Like I'd show you, but I'm not going to. But I have the RFF3 outline document right here in front of me, right? And it's got, like, okay, so I've got paragraph, connecting sequence, paragraph, connecting sequence, paragraph. What happens? How do we get to the next scene? Because you know I'm really big on story sequencing, too. Once this is all lined up, once that's all done, then I sit down and I start writing dialogue. And this is the exact moment when I start to focus on the characters. And I know this sounds ass backwards, and it kind of is, because every other writer in the universe does, like, either characters first, or characters are a major part of the plot, or they've done characters before now, but this is the exact moment when all of my focus becomes on the characters. But to explain my mentality a little bit, I'm going to explain it in terms of D&D, which I know is dumb, but hear me out. How many of you know a particular fictional setting really, really well? Like, so well that right now, off the top of your head, you could just chat about it. You could do a mini lore run on it, or you could run a game in it, like a D&D game, right? So, yeah, Mass Effect for Cord, probably Tor for Cord as well, honestly. Kingdom Hearts for Rax, Might and Magic for Evo Iliani. Giga Pudding has nothing, but that's okay. Command and Conquer for Killing You. My Little Pony for Ross. One Piece for Shadow Machine. You get it. You get it. The idea here is once I have the world sufficiently built in my brain, I can focus all of my creative energy on the characters because the world's already there. I know how things work, where things are, and how things operate. And I just kind of throw the characters down into it. And their past and their future just kind of builds naturally from that because I know who they can become based on the fact that I've already got the canvas, right? And that's how I write. So when I first sat down to write the characters of RFF1, the first thing I did was I'm like, okay, So it's Fighter. Williams is his name. And Williams is going to the Northern Shrine. And his character just sort of sprang into mind fully formed. I'm like, okay. Okay, so Williams is someone who's a military man. A rather violent kind of personality. And he's someone who is doing this as a personal favor to the king. Why is he doing this as a personal favor to the king? Well, that makes sense. He's one of the nobility. Okay, so he's rescuing the princess, who's also nobility, who's also the second party member, Princess Sarah. The mere fact that her name is Sarah implies that she's elven. Okay, well, now we have a human going after an elven princess who's the daughter of a human king. You can see how this just starts developing as I'm going here, right? So when I actually sit down and start writing the dialogue, all of this just kind of starts fleshing itself out naturally because I've already got the world to build it on. I've already got the tools. My toolkit is full. Look, Ross. And so, and all of them develop rather naturally out of that, and I start finding a voice for them. I start finding a mentality for them, and I start thinking how they would react to events. One of the things I also like to do, I'm really big on pacing. So RFF1 is definitely a story where every now and again, there's just a breather section. Actually, if you're paying attention, in our Diablo, there were several deliberate breather sections for the exact same reason, for pacing. And for me, one of the best things you could do with a breather section is develop character. So what ended up happening very naturally, without me even meaning to, is after Provoca, after the events of Provoca, the party's on the ship heading south to Elfheim. And I'm like, well, obviously the party should talk to each other. Who should talk to each other? Well, these two people have some excess baggage, and they're kind of bouncing off each other character-wise, so it's going to be between these two characters. So then they start talking to each other, and the conversation... Ask Evo. I don't know why, but I'm really good at writing dialogue. It's actually probably the thing I am best at writing. I don't know why. I don't know why. Maybe it's because I do that out loud writing. I don't know. So I'm like, okay. And I just sort of... The dialogue flows very naturally. Once I'm having a scene with two people talking to each other, that just flows right off the page. And as I'm going through it, I'm like, okay, you know, this is this and this is that. And after I finished this scene, I had fully developed his past, her past, and like both of their mentality and approach. And I also did a little bit of extra little details and extra little, you know, minute little added brickwork, for lack of a better way to put it, to the world building, to the events that had happened leading up to this. So I'm just like, okay, no, this worked. And I'm going to go ahead and stop here because the thing is going to start relatively soon. But I hope this is at least informative for some of you who are wondering about the overall process. So I do want to talk about one last thing, which is why I wanted to chop off here. Because can I just say, there are two things that surprised me about RFF1. So the first thing that surprised me is the fact that it's really, really focused on the main six. I kept calling them the main six because I like My Little Pony. But the big six are the main characters by an overwhelming margin. I actually keep track of this kind of stuff, so if I pull up the notes here, give me just a second here. Give me a second, because I gotta find the sheet, because I actually closed it as like a... That's what, here we go. No, not this. Oh, god damn it. Hang on. Why is this being dumb? Why is this not here? This is so strange. Oh, I see why. I see why. I'm searching for the wrong file. That's my fault. That's my fault. Okay, so I'm starting the document here. Sorry. And I'm like, okay. So I keep track of how many words each character speaks so that the actors have an idea of what kind of role they're getting involved in, right? I've been doing this for a bit now. So most of the random NPCs have like 90-ish words to them. Not that great, you know, not that much. But that's okay, you know, 160 words, 200... Sid speaks 205 words. The Thaumaturge is actually fairly large. He has about 700. Bahamut has like 287, whatever. Then there's the main characters who have 1,247. 1800, 1800, 2400, and 2700. And I'm not... This was very unintentional. It just naturally developed that the story zoomed in hard on the main six. Like I said, this is a character piece. But it wasn't intended to be. It was never supposed to be. It just kind of naturally developed into that. And so all six characters talk a fairly large amount, which is the second thing I didn't intend. So for those of you who watched Our Diablo, you know that Our Diablo switched back and forth between narrative and dialogue. Now, I did both visual and audio things to kind of indicate whenever a switchover happened. The original intent was for RFF1 to be completely narrative. It's actually the total opposite. It is complete dialogue. It is a script, like for an act or a play or a show. There is nothing but dialogue. So there's no narration whatsoever, no third party anything. Everything that is said is a line of dialogue said in character. I didn't intend that, but when I sat down and read it and allowed people to do the audit pass and give thoughts and comments on it, I realized that kind of worked for the Final Fantasies. So, spoilers, RFF2 is also all dialogue, and I'm pretty sure they're all going to be. It just kind of... I feel like it works better for the FFs. Especially since, as we've mentioned several times, FFs tend to be very character-focused, and having all dialogue is a good way to keep things personal. A narrator adds like just a bit, but a little bit of distance between the viewer and the story happening. And that's fine. It's a great way to zoom out the camera. But that's the point. It zooms out the camera. I want the camera as zoomed in as possible. So, that leads us to the final change. Now, this is the one I'm most nervous about. And I'm really, really scared that you're all going to hate this. You hear the music playing right now in the background? This is the soundtrack for the Pixel Remaster of Final Fantasy 1. You will not be hearing this music during the rewrite. This is something I'm not sold on. We're going to see how people react to RFF1. But with very few exceptions, there's no music in this script. Instead, I spent a fairly decent amount of time compiling a fairly decent library of ambient sound effects and, specific sound effects to create a scene. And we're going to see if that works for people. You'll see what I mean in the very first scene, because the first thing you're going to hear is the crowd of the people who are in the Shrine of Bahamut. It's the first scene. And we'll see what people think of it. I'm very nervous about this, because this is a risk. You're probably thinking, why did you decide to do this? A couple reasons. First of all, one of the things that's plagued me since the very beginning, all the way back in Paper Mario 2, is that it's extremely difficult to get people audible under music. There's a whole layer of aggravation that goes into that. That is a non-stop hassle. And, thank you, Zeiss. I'll put that towards Horizon Forbidden West. And the idea is, after a bit, I realized it wasn't working. There were several scenes which originally had music in them, and it was not working. Now, I'm not saying there will be no music total. It's just for RFF1 in particular, I felt like using the ambience consistently actually fit the overall tone of the work better. In future FFs, I'll be playing it by ear. I'll be audio directing as I go. And there is some music that plays during RFF1. But I do want people to give me honest feedback on that once you've heard it. But I wanted to give you that warning because it's probably going to be a bit jarring otherwise. Any other last-minute questions before I switch over here? And yes, if you type in !rewrite or just click the link that TSB just linked, it's going live in about 2 minutes. I'm already here. I'm going to be giving live commentary as we go. Oh, casting! Right, I meant to talk about casting. Sorry, really quick. So, 6 main characters, which have a ton of dialogue, and about 30-ish characters who don't. I hated casting this. I've never had this problem before. I had like 6 separate people try out for Williams, the fighter, who were all good. And I was just staring at it like, how do I cast these people? And this boss fight music started playing. I was like, how do I cast this? It was really aggravating. It was something that made me want to just tear my teeth out, because I had to tell several people, you didn't make the cut, but you didn't do anything wrong. It was very frustrating. It was extraordinarily frustrating. And ironically, I've had the exact same problem in RFF2. We're actually not completely done casting RFF2. As a reminder, we still need someone to play Guy for RFF2. And that's kind of it. Most of FF2 is already cast. But anyway, so it's just like, why? Why? 6 is, oh my god, 6. We'll get there when we get there. So yes, if you want to join the Writers Room Discord, bug me on the regular Discord, and I'll send you an invite to the Writers Room Discord. It's actually all very organized. It's all nice and organized. And otherwise, I'm gonna go and chop off here. Go ahead and get ready for the stream. Hopefully, at least a couple of you might be joining us for that. There will probably be no post stream. I'm just gonna go ahead and say that. So, and there will obviously be no streaming until my real life situation is dealt with. Just to be very clear about that. Thank you all for joining me, and I hope you'll enjoy the movie.